What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of Three for the Money. Okay, back at it again with my main man Stuckey on the day that Belichick will hold his press conference, couple days away from Belichick's favorite program, NFL or college, Navy playing Army. And I know Stuckey's a junkie for that game. I saw it opened up a little like around 40. It's last I checked, it was I think like 38 and a half. All lines presented here by DraftKings. This has to be, I bet you have this stat. When's the last time these two teams combined for 19 wins coming into a game? This has to be one of the better versions of both teams playing in this game in a long, long time. I feel like at minimum, one of the teams is usually have 3 or 4 wins coming into this game, definitely recently, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, it's the most combined wins ever.
A couple
Um,
years ago, they were both terrible.
yeah, first time since 2017 that both teams have already clinched bowls, and
Wow.
first time since 2017 the Commanders and Chiefs trophy is at stake. It's the highest total since 2019. But yeah, this is the most combined wins in the 125th version of the Army Navy game. Army, if they win, they'll win their 12th game of the season, which would be the most in program history. Historic game, always catch it. I used to go. My dad used to bring me growing up when it was at the vet in Philly, and
I went to
oh
the link, I think in 2010, I think. It was pretty cool.
yeah, I think it would have been the vet when I was the Army. I remember one time. I mean, I was very, very young. We had a we were sitting in a section where Bill Clinton came. So Bill Clinton was president. I must have been like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10. Uh, and we had Secret Service had to come and check out our section. And then he came and sat down. That was pretty wild to see as a kid. But yeah, I'll always love this game. If there was a game that would go over, the past two have gone over actually, but like one was in overtime, or like two of the past three. One was in went to overtime to go over, and the other was on like the last play of the game. Um, this game historically has been I mean, just a pure underfest. I mean, since 2005, unders between service academies are 46, 11, and 2. And now the market has adjusted. Markets adjust to these types of things. You know, like the last couple of years, the totals would close at like 33, and they never were like that before. If you go back 10, 15 years, you were totals in the 40s, some totals in the 50s. Market's much more efficient now. People people still struggle to model these teams, just your traditional model. Army and the service academies don't really fit into them. They have like their their yards per play is very low, but they're fine with getting like 2 to 3 yards. They're going to go for it a lot on fourth downs. They're going to chew up the clock, but just the familiarity, which is what their advantage is in other games, because other teams, they don't get the best athletes, they don't get the 5 stars. So what their advantage is, they have a unique scheme. And more college teams, as we talked about this all season, as the top kind of the talent condenses and we're going to get more parity, the bottom is going to start to fall off more. And with that, I think some of those teams should consider having unique schemes and unique offenses, because then teams aren't preparing for you for that type of offense on a weekly basis. So that's their strength. But when they go up against each other, they don't have that advantage. You're playing against a defense that plays against a similar type of offense every single day in practice. The coaches know, and plus the coaches know what to look for, how to coach them up. And then these are generally very disciplined. I mean, they're
Yeah.
service academies, disciplined teams, and that is 80% of defending an option attack. Now they're a little more advanced, their offenses than they have been in the past. This isn't just your standard hand it off, fullback dive, fake fullback dive, run outside for the option. They're a little bit more advanced. So if there was a game that would just fly over, it would be this one. But it's against my nature to bet the over in these games. So I wouldn't fault anyone for doing it, but I have a good friend who's heavily invested in the over, and I'll probably be trolling him if it's 7-3 at the half, like I told him. But I'm looking forward to this one for sure.
The Davis Blue
And I
Devils
like
were.
Navy. If it gets to seven, that's too high. Because again, the familiarity, it should be lower scoring. This Army just crushed Tulane. I think they're the better team. But again, the familiarity, just this, it should be close and it should be lower scoring. So I'm waiting to get a seven with the Navy.
The Davis Blue Devils, where I went to high school, we ran the Delaware wing tee. So I got a special place in my heart for the 28 sweep and the 31 fullback trap. Uh,
Belly, do they call it
yeah,
belly?
belly, yeah.
Yeah, we
So
ran we ran some of that.
so what's funny is like even when I was at Fresno State and Pat Hill ran a pro style offense, he still had in the run game because they love running had run game concepts based in pro style offense with belly and the trap and the sweep. It's all interconnected. These guys are such
Yep.
fucking junkies.
Well,
But
and some of it and everything in football is cyclical. Like you're starting to see
big
some of
time.
those
Run
concepts
game's
come back into
back
the NFL. Yeah.
for sure.
It's
I
as everyone evolved in like catching up to passing and how to defend spread and pass, you're seeing these teams that again have unique running schemes that can move the ball in different ways, and it's always a cat and mouse game. So everything in football forever will always be cyclical in that sense.
Well, before we dive into some of these, we got some really good games this weekend actually. On Sunday because Saturday doesn't really exist beside the one game. But you have a unique perspective because you live in I think what could be argued like the number one college basketball area in America. That Indiana, North Carolina, it'd be definitely be in the conversation for us. I think if you just polled sports fans, Kentucky would have a strong argument to be number one. But the football program a couple years ago has had some moments. Obviously, they have one of the Stoops brothers who's pretty polarizing, but it's not apples to apples with North Carolina. I think you would agree because the SEC is harder. Like he is playing Georgia, Tennessee, now with the no divisions, Bama, Ole Miss. It's just way more difficult than playing even Mario Cristobal. Ain't exactly Jimmy Johnson. So when it became final, what were your thoughts as just a college football junkie, someone who follows this shit, someone who's probably bet on and against North Carolina? You know the ACC well. Uh, what are your thoughts on Belichick going to North Carolina?
I was number one, I was just shocked. I didn't see it coming. Um, and my thoughts are it could either work really well or just be a complete disaster in how, kids are going to respond to them, how he handles the kids, and that's a big uncertainty. I think what will, because at the end of his career, he started to lose his fastball a bit in terms of, you know, I mean, the drafting fell off, but just special teams, game management, like a lot of those things fell off. So I think what is going to determine if he ultimately succeeds is who he hires as his coordinators and fills out his staff. I think that's going to go a long way because I think another thing that happened to him at the end of the his era in New England, I mean, yeah, obviously he lost Brady, but he was
What
too loyal to certain guys and that were on his staff, and then he was responsible, and him and Brady were responsible for most of that success. You saw the guys that would go elsewhere, it never
they
did anything.
crumble. Yeah.
But he was too loyal to certain guys that were, so like, is Matt Patricia going to be the OC? Like, you wouldn't want that. So I'm curious to see. I assume
Would you want him as your DC?
I think he's going to bring in his son, who, as his DC, who I think did a really good job at Washington and is pretty sharp. So I think that would be a good move. And I think he wants like his son to be the successor at UNC as the head coach. But which I don't know if I can see Steve being a head coach, but you never know how those things work. I think he would be a good DC hire. The OC hire is going to be really important. And then obviously it's all about managing the portal, somewhat recruiting. How is all that going to shake out? It's not college is so much more now than just, okay, here's our team and here's going to be our game plan and the X's and O's. Like there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it. So his staff is going to be, so he has like an aura. He can just go like, hey, I'm Bill Belichick, come play for me. I have connections in the NFL, right? He can sell that very easily. But I think his staff, how he fills that out is going to be uber critical, but it'll be fascinating to watch for sure.
What would you say the coaching staffs he's going up against? Uh, I mean, I think Mario is pretty big scam artist when it comes to
Yeah.
just out coaching you. Clearly,
Yeah.
he can
Mario does all the
recruit.
other things well.
Elite. Yeah, he's elite. Like Belichick would die for Mario to be like his number three, right? Recruiting, giving bags, be the line coach. Like he needs guys. That is big in college football. Like he can't just bring Josh, Patricia, even Steve. Like he's gonna need some like college football hustler recruiters. Like there is a
Yep.
balance on a staff more
Yep.
than the NFL. Like the NFL, ideally, all your position coaches and coordinators are just scheme guys. In college, there's a lot of guys making seven figures or high six figures because they can recruit and interact with high school kids and coaches.
Yeah. And I think, and it's a great point. I think
Like
that'll,
Patricia ain't resonating with people. Like he's to me, that's one for Bill. It's like I'd pivot on that one, but he's not going
yes.
to. Patricia's going to come.
I'm also curious just how much weight and gravity does he have in terms of recruiting?
I think he
So
has a lot. Don't
I
you?
would assume so, but I'm not I'm not 18, right? Like so, like Bill Belichick, how much pull does he does he have with an 18-year-old now? It's going to be a lot, but how much, right? How many more of those four potential five stars can he get because of who he is and because
Does it
of
matter now with money?
yeah, I mean I think it matters a little bit, but not as much. But yeah, you got to manage the portal. You have to do all those other things. But like Cristobal, you also still need to manage the game, prepare your team. So it's a fine balance, and he can't treat the the players the same way. I mean, maybe he can because he's Bill Belichick. I mean, Saban would just, he would lose his lid. He ran it like a military, but they're kids, not adults. And how is he going to manage the difference there? It's not the same. So I just think it's going to be a fascinating watch to see how it all plays out. But I'll definitely be watching his staff for sure and how he fills that out because I think that'll go a long way in determining where this goes.
One thing will be interesting. I think you said this is like people forget that Alabama the last couple of years has been a little shakier, in terms of some of the nuts and bolts of penalties and stuff.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, part of what Nick had advantage of, he's obviously, one of the rare college defensive guys who's just an elite Belichick level schematic guy, but he was also getting the best players. Well, pre-transfer portal, by the time most of those guys started, it took them a year or two in the program before they started. He had 2 or 3, 4 years with everybody. And then once transfer portal started happening, you don't get as much time. Well, part of Belichick's whole thing, the reason he always said like he would take, I'm just going to use this example, Cole Strange, guys that aren't as talented. He's like, why the fuck you drafting that guy? Because he thought they were smart and they could learn his complex stuff. So like, well, you're getting guys coming in and out, the complexity of everything they do, like what Josh McDaniels thing was. Patriot offense is really hard. Only Brady can. Remember, Gronk used to be like, Tom, you got to calm down. No one can understand what you're saying. You're speaking Chinese here. And that to
Yeah.
me, like, now Belichick at his core is a teacher. He obviously understands that. But that's going to be a challenge of like the balance of how much you can give kids that might only be in your program for a year or two, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's going to be
And
fascinating.
yeah, and maybe part of the saving thing also was just you lose your fastball. I think they're like the same age. They're like 73. So you can't do as much as you used to be able to do. You're probably not as sharp as you used to be. So again, that comes back to your staff and who you hire and who's around you, which is what I think it'll come down to. But there's so many layers to it, and it'll be a fascinating watch and fascinating win total and everything to talk about. Because in this era of college football, we saw it this year. Look at Indiana in the college football playoff. There's so much variance year to year with these teams. A team like Ohio was bottom five in returning production on offense and defense, lost pretty much everyone. They lost Rourke, their quarterback, to Indiana, who led them to the playoff. This team lost everybody. They won the MAC. I mean, they were picked as one of the worst teams coming in to the season. There's so much variance in a year-to-year
Yeah.
basis. So you grab a certain number of players, you make a coaching hire change that works out.
10 wins.
You can find yourself in the college football playoff discussion because it's the
Totally.
ACC. Like it's not like
Yeah. Sucks.
yeah, it's not the SEC.
It sucks. And their biggest advantage, Florida State and Miami, doesn't exist if he's got $20 million to pay people, as they say that they're going to fill his NIL coffer up. So
Yeah, the
it
money, that's
would,
another thing to watch. How much money do they have to play with? Because
yeah, because
that's at the
it
end of the
wouldn't
day
have made
that
as much sense 10 years ago, right? Going up against Miami and Florida State, you're at too big of a disadvantage. Well, now you go, I can buy more players. I
yeah,
think Dabo
yeah,
said
no,
recently, right? We're going to have more money moving forward.
yeah. Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind, just because it is bowl season, I'm sure we'll talk about more of these in the college football playoff games in future episodes, but certain coaches care more about bowls than others. And as you might imagine, Cristobal, not one of them. Because what does Cristobal care about? Recruiting, filling out the. What do you think You think he's spending time on the game plan for Iowa State over the next couple weeks? Probably not. And Cristobal has not been good. Let me see. He's 2-6-1, I think, against the spread in bowl games. Um, so it's all about
Ward's
who's going to
playing, though,
play.
right?
What's that? Yeah, he
Cam
says he's
Ward's
going to play. Now, this is a fascinating development. There's going to be, like, in recent years, the only top five picks, like projected top five picks that I can remember playing. I'm sure there's more. This is just off the top of my head. But I remember Alabama, Bryce Young, and Will Anderson both played in the bowl when everyone was like,
K-State.
they're not going to play. And everyone was betting against them, including me. Um, and then they ended up playing. This year, but if you go back and you look at all like the quarterbacks, uh, the top five that you sit out if it's a meaningless bowl, not if it's a playoff game. But this year you have like all of these guys are saying they're going to play, and the Colorado Dion came out. He was taking a little shot at Florida State. He says, we don't opt out. We and have to see our program crater the next year. But he says like Shador and Travis Hunter are going to play, like they're projected top five picks. Cam Ward comes out. I think it was on a Zoom call with Dion, says he's going to play. Now, all this stuff is kind of new. I don't know if there's so the sample size isn't great, but I don't know if there's number one, it could change. Their agents could get to them and say, please don't play. But there also could be they also could just play a little bit and then not and then come out of the game. But there also could be like NIL deals tied to
Yeah,
not opting out.
I agree.
So a couple $1 million. Uh, I don't know if it would be like prorated or what. I don't know how that works, but I've read rumblings of that. I don't know how the contracts work. So there could be other things at play, but it's very surprising that if you look down the board at all of like the top quarterbacks, it looks like most of them are going to play. I'll be curious to, and I'll be curious to follow that and how it plays out because there have been guys before that said they're going to play and then agent gets in their ear and they end up sitting out. Like I think Marvin Harrison was trying, he was hurt, but he was like said he was going to play, but he didn't end up playing. Most of the guys recently have not, but it looks like this year some of the top guys are going to play. It'll be very interesting to watch. I have a tracker that I spend countless hours on every single day, following injuries, coaching moves, portal movement, opt-outs, you name it for every single bowl game. You just go to my Twitter profile. It's in there at Stuckey too, because it's like a full-time job monitoring all that. So if you're betting the bowls, check that out because literally every hour there's someone going in the portal, someone saying they're going to opt out. I mean, it's insane.
Well, sometimes coaches leave, right? Assistant coaches, like a linebacker coach or coordinator, might just take an upgraded job and they leave before the bowl game. So
Yep.
that's
Yeah,
it's
that's
hard to.
important.
I give you a lot of credit. I don't know how you even track that. That's a lot of shit going on. It's not like there's 32 NFL teams. There's how many Division One teams?
Yeah, there's 80 teams to track. The good thing is you can remove the playoff teams. There's more playoff teams now because you know that everyone is
That's
going
true.
to
That's
stay and
true.
play. But yeah, you're talking like around 70 teams that you got to follow. It's a lot of work. The head coach is a really interesting. Teams that haven't had a head coach over the past two cycles, they've gone 0-9 in bowl games. I think 2-7 against the spread, and it's not like they've lost. They've gotten blown out. Like Purdue, LSU 2 years ago. Syracuse last year lost 45-0 to South Florida. And I think part of that, again, not the biggest sample size, but I mean, there's count all of most of those examples. The teams just got ran off the field. Oregon State last year, if they lost Jonathan Smith, Notre Dame didn't even play anybody and destroyed them. But I think what happens is once a coach leaves, you're most likely going to have a lot more opt-outs, and there's not what's the incentive to play? You're going to have a lot more guys hit the portal even before the game starts in the betting market. You're probably going to have a lot more guys that the betting market didn't find out about that end up opting out. So yeah, teams without a coach, and like this year, I don't know, it's like West Virginia, Ohio, and Jacksonville State actually play each other, so that doesn't really count.
North Carolina have
North,
a go 6-6.
yeah, North Carolina is one of them. Freddie Kitchens is their, remember him? He's going to be their interim coach. So I list all them out too. So that's definitely worth watching because over the past few seasons in this new era, that UNLV, although Cal's starting quarterback hit the portal, their backup got hurt. So now they could be down to their third string. That game is wild. Cal's up to a 4.5 point favorite, now down to one. I don't know what to make of that game.
You know what
Sam
rumors
Houston
I
State.
heard about the Cal quarterback? He's going to go to Miami.
Yeah, he's probably going to get paid, and then like the writings on the wall. You saw an hour before it was announced his top receiver hit the portal, so you can kind of read some tea leaves. You're like, oh, there might be something coming here. Washington State's quarterback might hit the portal soon. Sam Houston State doesn't have a coach. They have I don't 11, 12 guys in the portal, but they say they're going to play. That could be like James Madison last year. They didn't cover when Cignetti lost, but most of them ended up playing. So that and because Sam Houston State, new team to FBS, they might be excited to play in a bowl. A team that might not is Marshall. I think Marshall has the most guys in the portal, the starters in the portal. Their coach left. They won the conference championship. Their coach left for Southern Miss from Marshall. He didn't get along with the program. I mean, most of their starters have hit the portal, and their QB1, QB2, QB3. They're down to a couple freshmen. I don't know which one they're going to go with. Marshall could be a mess. They're playing Army. And one last nugget, I know I'm rambling. Service academies in bowl games, usually a great bet. Reason for that? They always show up. Motivation is not an issue. Motivation in these meaningless bowl games is huge. Does the team care? Did they prepare? Do they want to be there? Who opted out? Service academies don't have to worry about any of that. You know they're going to show up. You know they prepared. You know they're going to care. And so 70% against the spread service academies in bowl games since 1990. And one of them, Army, is playing Marshall.
I didn't know if this was true or not, but I saw on Instagram that Marshall, again, I felt like this guy was making this up, and the comments said it wasn't quite true, that every single guy on the team opted out or went to the transfer portal as basically because they wouldn't pay him. That's why the guy left. I don't quite know not that it matters because funny thing about the Cal quarterback, did you see the clip when they beat Stanford like second or third of the last week of the season that went
Yep.
viral of him going, "I died on the field with my guys. It was an incredible moment." I heard on like Wednesday or Thursday of the next week, and this happens a lot. I guess college football people know this, that he just goes up to Wilcox again after one of the more viral moments. Everyone's like, God, the passion. This is why we love, and looks at Wilcox and says, I'm sick, which is the new I'm fucking out of here. So it's like we live it. I'm not taking. I guess that moment was real, but how could it be real if he already knew he was leaving? Surely it's like this is good luck, Bill. This is a crazy world where you just go up to Wilcox. This is like a 50-year-old guy, just like I'm sick. It's complete. It's like a lie. He's not sick at all, and then he's now in the transfer portal, and he'll be with Mario. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting. Maybe Bill's gonna like it. My take is that it's kind of like Silicon Valley probably 20, 30 years ago when even the
Yep.
government didn't know. There are no fucking rules. And what has
Yep.
Bill always done? Push the rules. Why does he always hate Park Avenue? Because they were the ones, they were like the government. He fucking hates that. He wants to just let me cook. Well, college football, it's like you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, he was always finding like the little
There are no
out of
loopholes because there are no holes. It's wide open.
yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting with Mendoza. It's something I'm gonna have to watch in the future,
Is he
like in
good?
that final weekend, teams that are already bowl eligible with quarterbacks, because I had no idea. No one had any idea. The line didn't even move that Mendoza was out. Like this wasn't announced during the week. Probably just sat out. No one's going to the portal. Wilcox then comes out 4 days ago and says Mendoza will be back next year. But yeah, obviously he's not. And he went to Columbus High School in Miami, so
Yeah, he's
um,
gone.
that would make sense. But yeah, and that's one to watch. They could be down to the third string because their backup got hurt. So that game versus UNLV, I don't know where UNLV's head at. They were playing to go into a playoff. Now you lose your coach, your OC's gone, can be gone. There's
Why would
some
he
of those
take
games
the
that
Why
are.
would he take the Purdue job? Is that much better than UNLV in this NIL era? Yeah, he got paid. It's Big
I
Ten.
assume it's just money. That's
Probably give him 40,
uh
50 million bucks.
yeah, like the John Summerall is a really good coach at Tulane. I think he's eventually going to get an SEC job. He was rumored to be going anywhere, and he actually signed an extension with Tulane. He was asked, like, "Are you going? Are you going?" He said, "Look, I don't know. I want to stay, but if your newspaper offered another newspaper offered talking to the reporter offered you 3 times as much money, you're probably going to really consider it and maybe take it." That's a lot of times that's all it comes down to. So yeah, I assume that it's money, but that's a tough job, and you have the Ohio coach Tim Albin went down to Charlotte. you that I mean, Charlotte has not been good, and there's more resources. You probably got paid more. You're down in the South for like recruiting, but the floor is so much lower. Like at Ohio, you can field your team that's going to be decent. You just won a MAC championship. The floor, and you can just flame out, and that could happen. Look, Ryan Walters was a hot coordinator name, and at Illinois, it helped that he had all he did was run cover one. He had 3 defensive backs play in the NFL in one year. But he goes to Purdue. I mean, they just don't have the resources, and then you're competing in the Big Ten, and you're gone in a year or two, and then where are you? I mean, I mean, Odom he's not a
He's like 50 years old,
yeah,
48.
so it's not like he's just probably trying to get as much money as he can. He's 48, and then if it doesn't work out, he'll go be like a coordinator at Arkansas. So, but yeah, those are definitely interesting decisions. But I'm assuming that was just a money decision.
Okay, let's go to state that's near and dear to your heart with two teams that are a pretty big deal in that state. Both two of the bigger NFL brands. The Eagles are on a night. They are a win away from the longest winning streak in the history of the franchise. Yet this week got weird, and it got weird fast when Brandon Graham basically admitted they don't like each other anymore. And it's like you can roll it back all you want. You said what you said. You've been with the team for literally 15 years, and that was a big selling point. Remember when they traded for AJ, is those guys were boys, and they're clearly not anymore. And from what I've heard, it's not just that Jalen's a hit or miss passer. I think there's some personality stuff, and it kind of shows. Like I bet on the Eagles in terms of they were my pick just based on talent. You watch them; they're loaded with talent. I mean, they are. The offensive line's awesome. Obviously, adding Saquon, the receiver, the tight end, they're fucking defensive players. I mean, Jalen Carter, he might be a wild card off the field red flag when he is on. I mean, there's Larry Allen might whiff him. I mean, he's a special talent. Cooper DeJean, the rookie corner they have is a stud. But you watch the Lions, it's like this group unit. It's like, geez, these guys love each other, right? You watch the Chiefs and the Bills, it feels like much more of a team than you watch this squad. That's where this Tomlin 5.5 to me seems a little outrageous. It'd be one thing if the Steelers were like a 6-6 team. Like they've been pretty good. I thought that Russell played like his best game. Obviously, Pickens wasn't playing, so the lollipop throws didn't. He made a couple throws in the red zone last week that was like, God, this is kind of Seattle, Russie. And I don't know how they do it, but no team drafts pass rushers as well as them. I mean, they got random white guys coming off the edge. You're like, who are these guys? And then obviously TJ Watt. I think Cam Hayward. I mean, you talk about a guy that rolled back the clock. Every time I watch them, he looks like really good for a guy that's 35, 36 years old. I I kind of like the Steelers to win this game, honestly, Stuckey. Definitely
Yeah,
hammering them plus the points because I think
Tomlin is a dog.
The Eagles, and you'd have to agree, like the Jalen, their passing game is just off, and to me, it's him because he's not a great pocket passer, so it's got to be the freelance plays outside the pocket, and those are just going to be hit or miss in the NFL.
Yeah, and under pressure, his numbers crater, which the Steelers can get. Yeah, taking Tomlin as a dog. I mean, he's the most profitable coach in NFL history against the spread as an underdog. This year, they've been underdog 5 times. They've won all 5 outright. So this is your classic Tomlin spot. Along those lines, if you look at these Tomlin dog spots, the under has hit almost at just as high of a clip. I like the under in this game. I think they're kind of correlated. What happened? One of the reasons why Tomlin his teams are so good as an underdog, he gets them up. He's like a rah-rah coach, but he'll also play these games very conservatively. And I mean, that's his nature anyway, but he's going to rely on his defense. He's going to rely on his special teams and keep the game close. And then what happens? Waddle strip someone in the fourth quarter, and then they'll get a short field touchdown and win the game. Like that's he just wants to keep the game when he knows he's overmatched as an underdog. Keep the game close. Don't lose it. Don't lose the turnover. They're the only team in the NFL the last 7 years that hasn't lost a turnover battle in any season. Their one possession record over the past 10 years is
That's
the best in the
crazy.
NFL. So don't lose the game, don't turn it over. I don't think they're gonna have a ton of success on offense. The Eagles defense is peaking and it's real. Like their young corners, the Fangio, it's a complex D. They've really picked up on it. But the corners have made the biggest difference. They're number one in the NFL against the deep pass. There's no Pickens. That's been the best form of the Steelers offense, the deep pass with Russell, his intermediary and
Wait,
short
you don't think
stuff.
Pickens is going to play this week?
No. I mean, they said he was doubtful yesterday, so I doubt it. I mean, they're in good position for the playoffs. Like, why push them, it sounds like. And I believe they have the Chiefs and Ravens coming up,
They do.
um, which are bigger games in the grand scheme of things. So I don't think that he does play. So, and the Eagles' run defense has been really good and trending up. So I don't think the Steelers are going to have much success offensively. And they're going to play it close to the vest. But the Eagles are running as much as any team in the NFL by a wide margin. So clock's going to be running in this one. Neither team's particularly fast. And yeah, the Steelers defense, their run defense, I think can hold up against Barkley. They'll show up, they'll be hyped up, they can get pressure on Hurts. And I'm just curious to see. The other thing is the Eagles can't score in the first quarter, which plays into the Steelers' hands. It's like keep it close, right? Just make this a grinder. And they've been like the worst offense in the NFL in the first quarter. They can't score. Their script has been so bad. I am curious to watch like how does this Brown fallout play out on the field? Does it throw off the offense? Are they trying to force balls to Brown to make him? They came out and they said we need to give him the ball more. So like, is it going to throw off like what they're trying to do and how that chemistry plays out throughout the game if he's not getting the ball? They said they squashed it in a meeting. It'll be interesting to watch, but yeah, you can't go wrong with Tomlin as a dog, and usually that's correlated with the under, which I like here.
I saw like a social clip of Mangini saying like that's insane to say that out loud. Like Kellen Moore just said that. My pushback would be once they work to get everything settled, clearly they're going to try to feed their guy. So whether you say it or not, I think Mike Tomlin and Threll Austin with Minka Fitzpatrick going over the defensive strengths and weaknesses and game plan would go, they're going to force feed this guy. I don't
Yep.
need to hear Kellen Moore or Sirianni talk. The other
Yep.
thing is, kind of nerdy football. How about the kicker matchup here? One guy is turned into Justin Tucker 2.0, and the other guy is not very reliable right now. Well, Jake Elliott looks like Jake Moody right now.
I mean, one of the biggest reasons the
So if you like it in a
Steelers,
close game, I mean, you got to like the Steelers. One guy, he's a kick away from. Are they going to start booing him at the link?
yeah, he has lost his kickers. They lose it mentally. It's gone at least for that season. And yeah, Elliott looks even his makes look shaky, and he was automatic last year. But if you look at the division, Steelers are 10-3, Ravens are 8-5, the Bengals are 5-8, the Browns are 3-10. Everyone's lost close games. They all had kicker problems, except the Steelers. The Steelers have had arguably the best kicker in the NFL this year, in Boswell, in one of the toughest stadiums, by the way, to kick in, with some of those swirling winds, especially on one end of the field. But the Ravens, I think, have lost their games by a total of 22 points and in their losses. And I think that's the amount of I think Tucker's missed like 21 worth of field goals, 21 points in those games. The Browns, I mean, every week they finally cut him, but Hopkins, I mean, look at Hopkins last week. Missed a couple field goals against the Steelers. The Bengals, I mean, McPherson was shaky and now he's hurt. Like it matters. And especially with the Steelers who want to play these close games, their kicking has been so much superior to everyone in the division, which might end up making the difference when it's all said and done and uh, put the Ravens in the wild card, which not many people thought coming into the season. But yeah, that could end up, that's something to watch in this game. Tomlin would love for this to turn into a field goal battle where they would have the edge.
Well, I know he's injured right now, but the Chiefs post Tyreek Hill have played in a lot of tight games, and Butker's been pretty good for them. Right? I mean, it
That's one of
matters.
and again, you look at why these teams, if you, the best teams, the best one possession teams of the past 10 years, the Chiefs and the Steelers. And part of that is coaching. Part of that is you don't turn it over. And part of that is having a reliable kicker. If you're going to be in a close game, one possession game, you need to go kicker. Like what's going to happen with the Chiefs? Mahomes, they're down. Mahomes has the ball late. He's going to find a way to score, to get into scoring range. And then Butker is going to make the field goal. Now it's a little shakier now because you got Matthew Wright, who's been pretty good, but he's not Butker who ends up. I mean, the Chiefs' luck this year is. We talked about this last. Like, you want it to end. These games they don't mean that much. I mean, I guess you can get home field, but man, every week they win on the last play of the game on something crazy.
Well, think about this. If you're the Chiefs, I think the Steelers mainly fall in this category too. If you're going to score, let's say, feels like most games, 2 touchdowns and kick, let's just give you a conservative 2 field goals. That is 6 points in field goals and 2 points in extra points. That's 8 points. So if you were to miss an extra point and a field goal, that's the difference between 8 and 4. Well, if you're only scoring 18 to 20 points, that's a huge
20% of your points.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like they are relying, especially this, when Butker was healthy in the Steelers, like that's a big deal. It's like I win 19-17. Well, if that fucker misses his 48-yard field goal, we lose the game.
Yeah, and the Steelers too. The important part of them getting like home games in the playoffs and cold and weather in that stadium in particular, like Boswell's unfazed by it. There are teams that won't attempt a 55-yard field goal in that stadium on one side, especially if there's any weather. They'll just punt it. I mean, for a long time, Justin Tucker led that stadium in 50-plus yard field goals. Didn't even play for the Steelers. And Boswell's clearly overtaken him now, but that's how hard that stadium is to kick. You get home playoff games. That's a major edge, like you said, in a game where 2 field goals could be, a third of your points.
Okay, Bills, Lions. I think it's easy to look at that game, right? I think you can look at it twofold. Understandable. They just clinched the division, coming across. The Rams have been kind of shitty all of a sudden. Look like the Rams team that we saw at the end of the year last year. They were clicking. Stafford was humming, and they jumped on him early. And then Josh Allen turned into Josh Allen. We got a game down the stretch. I think this is it feels like one of your classic spots where everyone overreacts a little bit and hammers the Lions. I mean, the Lions early on in that game against the Packers, you had Jamal Adams running around out there on defense. I haven't looked at their injury report in the last day, but like they have a lot of guys that are legitimately injured. So I just think this is a spot where everyone thinks the Lions are, the '07 Patriots. And obviously offensively, they're pretty incredible. But I do think this defense, it's one thing, the Packers just play so shitty sometimes early in games. I thought they lost that Thursday night game in the first half when they had 7 points. Because then the second half, they calmed down. They were scoring at will. It's like, well, if you fucking guys just had 13 points in the first half, you're not stressing this game. Instead, it's like touchdown, touchdown. You went back and forth in the second half. It's like you lost it by scoring 7 points against freaking Jamal Adams in the first half. It was, if I'm Aaron Glenn, like that is my resume. Just watch the first half with these random cats against the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah,
Because like I like the Bills here plus 2.5.
I do too. I'm waiting to see if there's a three that pops. So I'm gonna wait. There's no sense in jumping in now at 2.5. If it goes to two, whatever. It's much more detrimental than if you bet 2.5 and you can get a three. This look, I loved the Rams last week. It was just a really good spot, and Stafford was just on fire against the zone, which he tends to be. Bills are zone heavy, don't blitz. That's what you want to do against Goff. If you play his numbers against man, the Lions' offensive numbers, I mentioned this in previous weeks against man. If you look at them compared to all the other teams, you need like extra pieces of paper if you graph them out. They're so much higher. Zone, they're like against zone, they're like the seventh, eighth best offense in the NFL. Bills predominant zone team. Now they're going to probably down one of their starting corners in Douglas. It's had a down year, but that'll still be somewhat impactful. But yeah, I think that the Bills, their offense, we talk about the Lions offense indoors, the Bills offense with Josh Allen indoors. I mean, this is a team that scored they've scored 30 plus 5 straight games. They played a bunch of those games outdoors, and they haven't had all their weapons. This week, fully healthy. Kincaid, full participant. Coleman, full participant. They have everyone back. So this offense, if you look historically, Josh Allen indoors, this includes his loss last week in which they scored, 42 points. 9-2-1 against the spread, 81%, covering by 9 points per game. And Allen is an underdog, or favored of less than a field goal, 27, 14-2 against the spread, 66%. And this is when you want to fade these teams that have a 90+% win percentage. They look invincible. Teams with a win percentage north of 90% in the month of December overall, 21, 48-2 against the spread, 30% against the spread since 2003. But I just think this Lions defense, when you account for all the injuries, they are so ripe to get just absolutely shredded. They're playing very aggressive to make up for some of the injuries. They're blitzing a lot. They're playing a ton of man, single high. Go back and look at who the Lions have played this year. Name me an elite quarterback with a fully healthy offense. Haven't faced one. I mean, you look at the Lions schedule. They've played now. Jordan Love.
You don't count Love last week?
He's like in somewhat there. I mean, but the Packers put up, what did they put up? 30 when he was healthy.
Yeah.
But I don't. He's not in the Allen tier quite yet. But they played the Bears, the Colts, the Jags with Mac Jones. They played Stroud when he didn't have any of his receivers, and they really should have lost that game. They played a hurt Love. They played the Titans with Mason Rudolph. The Vikings with Darnold. He's playing well, but he's not elite. And the Vikings put up 30. So you look back, they haven't had to face an elite. I guess you can go back to Stafford week 1, but there's his offensive line and Nakua got hurt. His offensive, they were down to like their sixth center, and Hutchinson had like 8 sacks in the second half. The Bills' offense fully healthy, and the way that the Lions are playing right now, you can get away with that against mid-tier quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks, but with your single high playing man trying to blitz Josh Allen, you're going to get picked apart here. And also, you don't want to play man against Josh Allen. He, especially indoors, that's where I think the Bills have the edge over the Lions. Is Allen, third downs, can run and get the first downs, which Goff can't. And against man, his legs are super important. So I think this will be a really close game. I think it's closer to a coin flip. So give me the points with Josh Allen indoors with a fully healthy offense. Against Lions defense could be a little healthier. Today will be a big on the injury front. Like McNeil could be back. Could get a couple guys in the defensive line. Not sure about Reeder, but they're hurt at linebacker. And I think the secondary is vulnerable. I think the Bills bounce back here. Really important game for them. If they want home field, they have the game up on the Chiefs. Lost last week. Chiefs don't have an easy schedule down the stretch. Bills need this one. I mean, so do the Lions. I think it'll be a good game, but just give me the points.
Okay, now to a team, Sunday Night Football. They've won 4 straight games. Now, 2 of them been against Kyler and the Cardinals. One of them was the Jets. And another was an impressive win against the 49ers, who had some injuries. This team at home, I just looked at the weather. It's supposed to rain every day except Sunday, but it's cold, windy. The place is rocking. to me, they basically got to win two of their last four. It almost feels like they would be a lock to be in the playoffs. They still have the Bears, but these next two games against and they finish with the Rams are against the Packers and the Vikings. So if they win one of these next two games, I feel pretty good about Seattle's chances to be in the playoffs. This is a big spot for Jordan Love on the road. It's just crazy environment. Every time I want to trust them, like it gets back to the first half. It's like, well, they start slow and then they start humming. Now, granted, like you said, that Detroit defense, it's like, what are we talking about? Last This is a little different animal against a defensive coordinator that's gotten guys back and has done a really good job. I kind of like Seattle underdog at home. Now I get it. This isn't the LOB Seattle Seahawks, but that's to me seems like money line value there. Like I mean, this Packer team, I've liked them, but the more and more like the season has gone on, like yeah, maybe they're kind of in the same spot as last year, and maybe they're a year away from kind of getting closer to where they want to go. And this is more of a year like they might win a playoff game, they might be one and done, but they're not really a true Super Bowl contender. Not that Seattle is either, but what the hell's the difference? I'm taking the home team in a cold weather environment against a young quarterback that just gives you bad halves. He can turn it on for a half and look like Aaron Rodgers, but you just can't afford to win some of these games when you're fucking scoring no points.
Yeah, I don't mind the Seahawks here. I want to see if Kenneth Walker plays. I think he'll be important in this game.
Charbonnet just ran. Now I get they were playing, the Cardinals, but
Yeah, he
he's
did
looked
look
pretty
good
good.
last week, but it'll help to have Walker too. I, the Seahawks are an interesting team because I think if you look at Geno's splits, he's so much better indoors in cushy environments. I mean, go back to that Atlanta game. I mean, all season, the offense is better suited to be an indoor. Go to the Lions game. I mean, they were scoring at will, and they had offensive line injuries in that game. They were Metcalf a fumble away from that game being like 35 all. So their offense is built for like to be an indoor team. And because they don't run the ball consistently, they have offensive line injuries. Like Geno can move around more. They have good speed at shifty receivers. You have Metcalf who can go deep. So their offense is not built to like play where they play at this time of the year. So maybe they won't be hurt like by going into the playoffs and having to go uh on the road and playing. If they had to go play Minnesota or Detroit, something worth noting because I think their defense can play anywhere, and but their offense doesn't look as good at home. So that's I don't mind the under here too. I think it's like high leverage game. The the Seattle's offensive line still has some issues. Their offense doesn't look good at home, but the defense is, I still think, undervalued. Their last two games have gone over, but if you go back to the Jets game, there was a pick six, a kick return for a touchdown, two muffed kickoffs that led to points, and then last week Kyler throws two picks that lead to two short field touchdowns. This Seahawks defense is legit. And it's McDonald. We've always talked about him. He's made the necessary adjustments schematically to fit his team. But not only that, he's fundamentally changed his team. And some of it's just health. Defensive line was so banged up middle part of the year. And the secondary. I mean, didn't have multiple starters. But now that not only are they healthy, but he changed some things. He got Rayshon Jenkins out of the lineup, who was terrible, put Kobe Bryant in at free safety since week 7. Been a huge plus. That big upgrade of free safety also allows you to do more with your now healthy corners. Linebackers. I mean, he was constantly shifting, cutting, trading, getting the guys that he needed in there. Linebacker, pretty important position in how he wants to disguise things, more so than other schemes. He got his guys in there that he felt were the best fit. Coming out of the bye, it looks like he was right. Now they're defending the run well. Their secondary's healthy. You got upgraded at free safety. You have more flexibility with your corners who are now healthy. So that whole unit is trending up, and I think they'll be ready here. Another thing to watch is the Packers could get, let me see if there's an update that would help the under, is the Packers secondary is their corners in particular
Jair's
are
been
not
hurt.
really good when there's no Jair Alexander. But if he goes a second straight day of full participation, that helps them a lot. That'll allow them to do more things for an aggressive defense, and he'll obviously be important for Metcalf. So you could get Alexander here, which kind of upgrades the Green Bay defense. So I don't mind taking the home dog, but I also kind of like the under as well.
I mean, there's a decent chance we get this game in a month, right? as the 3-6
Yep. Yeah.
because the Packers are, I mean, I think are pretty entrenched. I feel pretty confident they're going to be the 6, right? They're not going to be the 7, and now it's pretty tough after that Lions loss to be the 5, right? Given that however it shakes out between Minnesota and Detroit ends up the 1 or 2 and the 5, and then the Eagles end up the 1 or 2, and Seattle, I guess the Rams. We're recording this before Thursday night. Technically, can still win the division, but so
Yeah, you
this,
could. Yeah, I mean, the Packers are, if they're like 95, they're 98% to get in right now.
oh,
Vikings are
they're a
99.
playoff. They're a playoff team. I mean, they're in.
Yeah.
The
And
the
they're,
Vikings, Lions, and Green Bay are in.
yeah, Vikings probably gonna be your 5, Packers your 6. And yeah, Seattle is probably gonna be your 3. I mean, the Bucks have a really easy schedule, so maybe they could end up jumping them. Um, but maybe the Commanders could jump the Packers, I guess. But
I think Commanders are leaking oil. We'll have to see how they look this weekend because I could see them start losing some games.
yeah, I mean that. But you got to remember the Commanders have an easy game this week, but then they have Eagles. Um, well, then they have the Falcons at home, then the Cowboys. So they could finish with 10 wins pretty easily, even though I do think they're leaking oil. Um, but I think the Packers will eventually end up with the 6. So yeah, this is most likely to be a rematch. But if the Seahawks win this game, if the Seahawks lose this game,
Yeah, then it get
division's back on. The winner of this will be out the day after, but whoever won the 49ers will be right back in it. They beat the Rams. If the Rams win it, they're right there.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, this is a huge game for the Seahawks and their chances at the division because they host the Vikings next, and then they close, and then they're at the Bears on a short week, which it's not an easy spot. And then they close at the Rams. So huge swing game for the Seahawks.
Before I get you out of here, any other games you like? You like a little Raider money line upset against the Atlanta Falcons at home, or is that a little too bold?
I got to see who's playing quarterback. They're saying O'Connell might play. I don't know what's going on with that game. I mean, the Falcon. I don't think Cousins is fully healthy right now. So yeah, why not? I did play the Chargers -2.5. Like you can find like a -120 out there. I know Herbert has an ankle. I think we'll be all right. McConkey's playing. Bucks run as much zone as any team in the league. Herbert, number one quarterback against zone. This is the number one offense against zone. And the Bucks also don't have any safeties, and Antoine Winfield, an all-pro safeties out. So I like that matchup. Bucks also have been getting lucky. I mean, they're probably going to win that division. But if you look, their 5 wins this year, their last 5 wins, Panthers and OT should have lost. Raiders, Giants with DeVito, Saints with Rattler, and Eagles without 2 months ago. Eagles without all their receivers and their offensive linemen. That's their last 5 wins. Opponents are also 60% on field goals. They've had 21 fumbles, lost only 5 of them. So, and they've been really good in the red zone, like a little too good. And Chargers red zone D is elite. So I think this is a good matchup for the Chargers to bounce back, especially with McConkey in the lineup. And then the ugliest one, I bet the Panthers is a favorite, -2.5, -120. It's going up to 3. This is a horrible spot for the Cowboys. Season basically ended. You're more offensive line injuries. You lost to Overshone. Short week going on the road to play Carolina. They could come out super flat here. Carolina still cares. They're playing hard. Bryce
Look
Young
good.
looks so much better. And the only thing that the Cowboys do well is they get pressure. Panthers have one of the best offensive lines in terms of pass protection, and Bryce Young under pressure has been really good. They easily could have beat the Eagles, Chiefs, and Bucks 3 straight weeks. A drop pass, a bad review.
Panthers are
Um,
hot, bro. They're hot. They're the
yeah,
hottest losing team in the league right now.
and Cooper Rush has been metrically, he's been almost, if you just look at EPA plus completion percentage over expectation, almost as bad as Drew Lock since he took over. And over that time, Bryce Young statistically been like average, which is so much better than he's been. And then like big time throw rate, he's top 5. He's hanging in there. He's smiling. Looks like he's having fun. He's actually like yelling at the guys. Like it's a whole different person. Canales like fixed his footwork and he just got confidence. He needed a couple games playing well to just psychologically be okay in the pocket. And their defense is a bit underrated. It's still really bad, but they got healthier. Like you get Wanham back, you get a bunch. They were so beat up early in the
Yeah.
season. So I like the Panthers as a favorite, as crazy as that sounds, but I still think they're undervalued. They've covered five straight.
I like that, Stuckey. Well, let's watch the Panthers stay hot. Let's enjoy Army Navy, and we got a good Sunday coming up. So we only got so many of these left. So we got to really
Seven
really
NFL
enjoy them.
weekends
Oh,
after
I don't even
this.
I don't even want to hear that. I don't even want that
So
includes
enjoy
playoffs.
it. What's that?
That includes the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this is week 15. So after this, 16,
Yeah.
17, 18, wild card, divisional, conference, Super Bowl. So but while you're listening to this, we still have eight left, so I
That
don't
might
want to
make me want
shortchange
to
anyone.
cry.
Um,
That's
it goes quick. So enjoy every bet and every game that you have left.
okay. I'm gonna head off and watch the Belichick North Carolina press conference.
Oh yeah,
Talk to you
must
soon.
see.
Talk to you soon, Suggy.
All right, brother.